We have now came to the last part of geometry for this semester. It's called motion geometry and tessellations, and literally we're describing the way that you can take anything in the world, whether it's a box or your car or you, and move it in space. For young kids, you want them to see what can be done as far as moving objects in space. And this is a great topic to explore with little kids. It's really easy to do some of these things. So you want to talk about what is a slide, what is a flip, and turns. Now those maybe aren't the technical words, but you can use mirrors, paper folding, tracing, and paint to do these things. The definitions on this slide might seem a little intimidating, but basically an isometry is anything that preserves length or distance. In other words, if you yourself move 2 steps forward in your kitchen, you have not changed your shape at all, you've just changed your location, and that's what it's talking about when it said it preserves length or distance. A translation is one type of isometry, another one is reflection or a flip. And then one example of reflection is a mirror image. And any function from a plane to itself that is a one-to-one correspondence, it's called a transformation. So in other words, if the shape isn't changed, that's called a transformation. This is an example of a translation. If you look, the little kid at the top of the slide versus the little kid at the bottom of the slide, his original image and his translated image are the same. In other words, they're congruent, same size and same shape, and the image of a line is a line parallel to it. For this example, we're going to look at taking the image of AB over here and using the translation from x to x prime on dot paper. So this could be done on the dot paper we've done before. And if you look at it, to get from x to x prime, they first went down 2 units and then right 2 units to get there. So if we did the same thing with AB, what would that look like? And this is what it would look like. And if you take A and go down and to the right, you get A prime, and take B and go down and to the right, and you get B prime. And that is the image of AB under the translation from x to x prime. We all see our reflection every day in a mirror, and using a real mirror in a class situation with little kids would not be especially advised, just because the breakable nature, unless you found mirrors that didn't break. But one example is called a mirror. It's right here, a mirror, and here's the spelling of it right over here, mirror. And basically it is a plastic object in which you can see through. So you can look through one side and see the other, and it will make a reflection. So students will draw a shape on a piece of paper, put the mirror down on the middle of the shape, the line of symmetry, and then they will look through the mirror and draw the shape on the other side. So it helps students to do reflections. Now you don't have to do this with young students. You can also fold a piece of paper, paint on one side of it, and then close your piece of paper and see the image of the painting on the other side whenever the paint smashes on the other side. So there are quite a few different ways you could do this with kids. This slide has an example of a glide reflection. It's a transformation. It has a translation followed by a reflection. So in a glide reflection, you first translate, and translate means move left to right, up and down, and a reflection means basically a flip upside down. So let's see what this one does. So the car moves forward, that's the translation, and then it flips upside down. A little gruesome, that is the reflection or flip. So a little gruesome example. Hopefully this doesn't happen with you in your car, but that is an example of what we would call a glide reflection. Okay, so for the rest of motion geometry, we're not going to do some of the topics. I'm going to leave those for you to do in your group projects. But the thing that we are going to do for our homework for this is called a tessellation. A tessellation is when you take a plane, any plane. It could be your tabletop, it could be a piece of paper, and you fill it with repetitions of the same shape, same size, or congruent figures. And so they're all congruent, and there's no overlap and there are no gaps. So similarly, you can tessellate space. Now this is a relatively new idea in mathematics. And by new, I mean not your version of new, as in it's old to some of us, but it's new in the history of math. And examples are we tile a floor. That's a tessellation because the tiles cover the whole floor space. There's no gaps or overlap, hopefully, if you have a good tile guy. And mosaics are an example of it, quilts, paintings, checkers, etc. There's a really good a magnetic set that you can buy for your kids, your classroom, called Tessellations in the Garden, and also Tessellations in the Ocean. If we were in class, I would have brought these with me to show you what they look like, but you can also Google them. There's also math literature books about quilting and tessellations that you can purchase to show your kids. Okay, so now we're going to move on to some slides and you're going to see some pictures of actual tessellations. M.C. Escher is a famous artist, and he was known for his tessellations. Many of his drawings have been fascinating for everybody, but especially for mathematicians. And if you look, I included a picture of his study of regular division of the plane with reptiles. It's a pen, ink, and watercolor in 1939. And so if you look him up, you can look at mcescher.com. You can see probably quite a bit more of his paintings. If you Google tessellations, you will come up with a variety of images. Here are some examples. There's some that are prettier than others. There are some that are more intricate than others, but you're going to see a wide variety of examples of these. Here are some more examples of tessellations. Beautiful ones. If you look at the one down here, this one right here, okay, do you see that? That is actually, if you look really closely, it's a version of M.C. Escher's because it has the lizards, but instead of being painted the same, they're painted differently each time. There's a lot of really beautiful ones. I try to pull some off the internet. This one up here is especially in this top left corner is especially beautiful because if you notice, it's the same object but of different sizes and shapes, and it's centered around the middle instead of just being pushed across the space. So it's more of a rotation than it is a translation. The two pictures you see here are from our textbook, and you can see examples within our textbook, and it asks some questions like what transformation would move fish A to fish B, right here, and what transformation would move lizard C to lizard D, lizard C to lizard E, and then on the right side of the page over here, you can see different pattern tessellations and different questions. So if you want to look for more, you can look in our textbook. If you've been to my office on campus, you will see examples of tessellations all over my office door. So I wanted you to see some on the next 7 slides of examples of homework for this class from prior students. Okay, these two pictures have a story. So about, I don't know, probably 7 years ago or so, my Concept 2 students had to do the same homework you're doing. And one of my students asked if she could paint it, and I said, sure. And then she brought this to me as a gift later. And so if you look at the top one here, that's the one I had displayed in my office. And if you look right here in the middle, it looks like a lioness to me. And you can kind of see the lioness translated all over the piece of art. And on the back, she has her signature and the year. So my student went on to her student teaching, and she came back to visit me one day, and I had this displayed in my office, and she asked why it was upside down, which is hilarious. And so I was like, what do you mean it's upside down? And so she came and turned it over. This is the bottom version here. And if you look, this was her intention. I'm going to circle it. You can see a lady's profile, and it looks like a Victorian lady with a rose down here. Do you see down here her rose? So there's the Victorian lady with the rose in her hair. So you can see that whenever you create these tessellations, it's really open to interpretation as to what you're seeing, because I saw a lioness, but it was supposed to be a Victorian lady. So I had it wrong, and I'm sorry. Here's some examples from one of my concept classes. This student right here, over here on the top left, was very patriotic. And we also did this activity on November 11th in 2015. And so this student, his name was Joe Franco, and he always had an American flag flying in the back bed of his truck. He also won Homecoming King one year. So pretty famous guy. Now he teaches in Oklahoma City. Somebody else they weren't sure what to do with their shape. They didn't know what it looked like. And then I guess they decided that it looked kind of like a fish. So they tessellated it all over the page. And then this fish right here, they covered in jewels. And so it's a really pretty one. And then I like this one over here to the left, just because they attached their tessellated piece, and I like tie-dye stuff because my daughter loves tie-dye. This one is an example of what you can do when you don't know what it looks like. So you can see the tessellated piece all over the page, and the student wasn't sure what it looked like. So what they did was they took each tessellated piece and made a Disney or a movie art about it. So you can see Nemo, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, some Disney, Mickey Mouse. What else do we have? Cat in the Hat. Tigger. So it looks like there's quite a bit there. So you can be as creative as you want with this project, especially if you find something that you're not sure what it looks like to you. I love this one because it's just a good example of what creativity. If you're not sure what your piece looks like, turn it into something unique and different. This is one of my absolute favorites. I don't know why, except for the fact that I love to take all kinds of shapes and turn them into different colors. And it's what I liked to do when I was a little kid. And also it amazes me that somebody took the time to do this and had the patience to do this. It's even really difficult to see the tessellated shape in there unless you really, really look for it. The one on the right of this page is one of my absolute favorites of all time because it shows this particular student's their faith and their Native American heritage mixed in, and I really absolutely love this one. The one on the left, I'm thinking bonus points. A student took this and cut it out, and you can see the tessellated piece, and they just simply did a different design on each piece and talked about how I'm the best. So, but the student was not trying to get bonus points. She's just a very, very sweet student. So, okay, so now comes the part where your job is to create your own tessellated piece. So here's a picture of my office door. You can see some different tessellated pieces on my door. And if you click on one of the video links below, I'll also put them in the lesson plan, you can make your own tessellated piece and then make your own artwork and then get creative. And after you've completed your tessellation art, you will upload a picture of it to Blackboard. Good luck and be creative.